order. Very well. Besides the members, myself, Mr. Waugh, Mr. Mulligan, Mr. Taub, Mr. Cole, Ms. Van Giesen, also present are the building commissioner of the town, Thomas Evers, and Stacy Faber, who is the clerk of the zoning board. I wanted to make a note. Well, to calls case number 2165. That is the application of Dawson L. Farber III through David Little of Ryder and Wilcox for a special permit under General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 6. The zoning bylaw 164-3C2, 164-21A, Note 5, and 164-43 and 164-44. This is the applicant proposes to construct a second dwelling. The current existing building coverage is 2939 square feet. The total proposed building coverage on the site will be 4221 square feet, which of course is in excess of 4,000, and the property being located at 53 Kenneth Lane, Orleans map number 63, parcel 35. That is the only reason for which a special permit is being sought. Has any member of the board been in communication with the applicant or any of the applicant's agents, which ought to be disclosed to your colleagues or to the public, or which would constitute a conflict of interest? There's no positive response. Therefore, I declare the members of the board to be indifferent and impartial. Those deciding this case will be myself, Mr. Waugh, Mr. Mulligan, Mr. Cole, and Ms. Van Giesen. That's 5 members. Mr. Little, do you want to proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, David Little from Ryder and Wilcox, representing Dawson Farber and his family. Dawson Farber has a large extended family, and he is proposing to construct a second dwelling unit on his property that's located in the Mayflower Point area of Orleans. He has a large lot which contains a total area of 95,920 square feet and 85,748 square feet of buildable upland. We provided you with a site plan and building plans and elevations of the proposed second dwelling. If any of you had the opportunity to go to the site, you can see that Mr. Farber has already done some clearing in preparation in hopes of getting permission to construct this dwelling. But in doing so, he's also left a significant undisturbed woody buffer between Kenneth Lane and where the construction will occur. So the site is well vegetated and not too visible from the street as you go by. The site contains a dwelling, a garage, and our site plan shows a proposed 4-bedroom dwelling with a new septic system. The existing house has a septic system that's shown on the plan, and all work that's shown on the plan is outside of the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. We've actually shown a line of limit of work, which ensures that none of the work occurs or will occur within the property that the Conservation Commission is charged with protecting. With respect to the special permit criteria, We believe that the 2.2 acre site is certainly adequate for the second dwelling. The resulting building coverage of 4,221 square feet is approximately 4.9% of the buildable upland. We believe that the site is suitable for the coverage increase. The structures on the site conform to all horizontal dimensional criteria of the zoning bylaw and height criteria of the zoning bylaw. We would not anticipate any new impacts on traffic flow or safety. As I mentioned earlier, the impact on neighborhood visual character will be negligible, but as you can see from the plans that we provided you, it is a Cape style dwelling with traditional shingles on the walls and dormers on both sides. The existing dwelling is served by a Title V septic system, and the proposed dwelling would be served by a new Title V septic system. There are no drainage issues on the site. The adequacy of utilities are separate from and not impacted by the proposed structure, and we do not believe that there will be any noise associated with this other than the temporary impacts during construction. And with respect to impact on groundwater quality, recharge volume, and water quality of coastal and freshwater, we believe that these valuable resources will not be impacted by the project. The house is set back quite a ways from the waters of Pleasant Bay. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going from 2,939 square feet, or 3.4% of the buildable upland, to 4,221 square feet, which is approximately 4.9% of the buildable upland. So I would open myself to any questions from the board, Mr. Chairman, and we believe that this project could be permitted and found in compliance with the general provisions of this chapter and would not cause any derogation therefrom. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Have you been favored with a copy of a two-page letter from Susan Daniels, who appears to be a butter dated, a letter being dated October 10th to the zoning board?
No, sir, I have not.
Very well. Then I have received it, and it is part of the file. It has been circulated to the members of the board. Miss Daniels does not states comments, does not appear to object to the application. However, she notes in part that the application stated that the square footage, the existing square footage is 2939, but the Orleans database, assessor's database, listed the size of the existing dwelling of 3443. And she noted that that may have been 504 square foot error. Let the record reflect that the application filed with the building commissioner in the town for the special permit concludes a plan entitled Proposed Dwelling and On-Site Sewage Treatment and Disposal System, drawn by Ryder and Wilcox, and it is dated September 16, 2021, which includes a comparison of the building coverage presently, which, as it turns out, is 2939, as the application states, not 3,443. So there's nothing really. I rule
I-
that there's no discrepancy whatsoever. Maybe perhaps the building, the assessors are using the total livable space. Mr. Little, you
I
have
was,
a,
I was going to suggest the same thing, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe that the assessor's data gives you building coverage. The Orleans zoning bylaw, when it defines building coverage, it's referring to roofed area, which can include both the first floor and the second floor. And I suspect that, and I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect that the difference in the number may be due. The assessor's cards often refer to floor area. So I suspect that may be the difference, but I don't know that for a fact, Mr. Chairman.
well, no matter what, we've got a statement from engineers here that exactly what the proposed dwelling will have for square feet and the existing. So I think we can rely upon that. Ms. Daniels also notes the cutting of some mature trees and questions whether the loss of all the natural, how will the loss of this natural material being addressed. I heard the applicant claims and has testified that there is a buffer, a natural buffer retained between the location of the proposed new dwelling and Kenneth Lane.
That's correct. That's correct. And we've also maintained a buffer between the proposed clearing and the jurisdiction of the Orleans Conservation Commission.
And another consideration or comment is the kind and size of an additional septic system. That's the bailiwick of the Board of Health. When you've dealt with, I'm assuming that the applicant has dealt with the Board of Health for a new septic system.
Well, if we are successful this evening, Mr. Chairman, yes, that would be the case.
A final consideration was whether, I'm paraphrasing, whether the Mayflower Point Homeowners Association has certain oversight or rights in connection with the application. And I leave that with any restrictive covenants. I say, I'm not, the zoning board is ignorant and has been not informed of any restrictions or restrictive covenants which would control this particular development.
I'm not aware of any. With respect to this lot in particular, I've done research and I'm not aware of any that would impact this project at all.
Now, none of which I said indicates that I made up any in my mind concerning the application, but it was just a matter of clarification as to what the zoning board I'm ruling can consider and what's none of its business. The only issue that I see in front of the board, subject to any comments by my colleagues, is can another structure be put on this 95,000 foot lot, and so that the total building coverage exceeds 4,000 square feet, in view of the fact that the percentage of coverage will now be 4.9% instead of 3.4%. Whether that's such an insult to the zone ordinance to prevent it.
I concur, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just stating the issue. Any questions by any other members of the board of the applicant? Mr. Cole.
David, the existing septic system is labeled as 574 gallons per day and shown as only connecting to the existing 3-bedroom dwelling. Is there a connection from the existing system to the garage?
No, there is not.
So there's more than 2 bedroom spare capacity on that system. the new system is a 4-bedroom system completely separate.
It is, Mr. Cole, and it made sense to, rather than to expand the existing septic system, which would have resulted in the disturbance to a lot of landscaping and work that Mr. Farber has done on his property over the years, he preferred to, rather than approach it that way, he preferred to install an entirely new septic system for the second dwelling, which we are allowed to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a better outcome. Confirming that the garage wasn't connected was
No,
the more
the
important
garage
point.
has some finished space in it, but there are no bathing or sleeping facilities.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Is there anyone present at this meeting who wishes to speak in opposition, excuse me, in favor of the application? There's no positive response. Excuse me, Mr. Jaffe.
Right, so it's not a positive or negative. I just wanted to ask a question.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So I said, you said there was no impact on traffic, noise, groundwater. I'm wondering about impact on the climate. Do you know if the building is to be energy efficient or even a net zero building?
Mr. Jaffe, no, all I can tell you is that the building that has been designed will comply with the Massachusetts State Building Code. I'm not aware of any measures that the applicant has taken to make it more efficient than is required by the state regulations.
Mr. Evers.
Yeah, well, Orleans is a green community, and therefore the house is under the stretch code, which is much more restrictive than what's required in the building code.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to or in comment upon the application? Then I'll close the hearing for the taking of evidence and ask for the pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to grant the special permit as presented.
Without, very well, seconded by Mr. Mulligan. There's no conditions. Is there any discussion on the motion? Then, Ms. Faber, can you call the roll of the voting members on this application?
Sure. Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Mr. Marnick,
Yes.
Ms. Van Giesen,
Yes.
and Mr. Waugh.
Yes.
Very well, then the motion carries unanimously. I will write the opinion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Little. This is what I wanted to make just a remark to, as some comfort to the my colleagues. I never realized that the city, that's a town clerk, can contain or maintain a list of the filings for relief to the zoning board. I have a list now, and I think you all have seen it, including the name of the applicant, the file date, the ZBA number, when the decision was filed, and if there'd been any appeal. And during the process of the pandemic, there were a few decisions which fell through the cracks. I'm still, some of the listed applications were withdrawn. In that case, there never would have been a decision filed. I'm I think there may be a couple outstanding, but I can state that all of the 2021 filings are up to date. With the exception of 2164, which the draft decision was given to me yesterday, and 2160, which is the next case, and it's still pending. So I filed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decisions in the past 10 days. So I think that takes care of the housekeeping, which was, well, I never, and I have to give a full credit to Vice Chair Eckhol to obtain the list and brought it to my attention with some gracious expressions of volunteering to draft opinions as needed. Any comment? Okay, number 2160. This is the application of Nauset Marine, and it's been continued from September 1st, 2021, and again continued from October 6th, 2021. This is an application as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 6, and also Orleans zoning bylaw 16444, 164 attachment 1, which is the schedule of use regulations, which seeks the executive summary of the application is to allow the construction of a new building and change in use from boat storage on the lots, which is an assemblage, to allow and include boat repair. The historic use under terms of a variance was principally for, according to the decision on the variance, was principally for a marina. Now the property is located at basically 7 Barley Neck Road, extends all the way down to High Tide Lane, and there's 4 or 5 or 6 parcels. And we started, at least there was an introduction given to the board on September 1st, I think. And now are we prepared to proceed to a hearing, Mr. Zenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are.
Very well. Then we have, now there was a question. Misters Cole and Mulligan have requested permission or announced their intention to be excused from consideration. Did you have a remark on that?
Well, yes, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, thank you for hearing us tonight. And I'll introduce my team in a moment. You know, obviously every member has the right to recuse themselves from the hearing of the matter for either, you know, perceived conflicts or actual conflicts. We're put at a little bit of a disadvantage with only 4 members to hear this matter tonight, with only 1 member left, being Ms. Eichholt, who could be in attendance in future meetings to hear this. So I would like to just, you know, ask the 2 members that are recusing themselves if they would reconsider recusal. Obviously, if they can't, or they're going to recuse themselves, that's their right. So at this point, you know, I'd just like to understand who's hearing the matter tonight, and that if we only have 4 members to go forward tonight, Mr. Chairman, I would like to have the ability to have the board polled as to its intentions before we ask the board to take a vote, because we don't have any extra members to spare tonight. So if there are issues that are outstanding, or the board members need further information, or if they have, you know, they don't believe that they would be able to vote for this project, we'd like to be able to come back at the next session, perhaps with Ms. Eichholt having reviewed having reviewed the minutes and the tapes of the hearing to be a fifth member to hear this.
Very well. Members of the board, the executive summary of those remarks were that a four-member zoning board would need to be unanimous if that were the quorum. And historically, we have allowed the applicant to make a choice to proceed with a lesser number than five. And we have also allowed the procedure suggested by Mr. Zender that he could, the applicant could get a sense of whether the applicant would insist upon the attendance of five by the remarks of the members of the board. It is not appropriate for Mr. Cole and Mulligan to state the reasons for their request for recusal. We won't do that. But I would allow each of them to state now, first, whether they're either or both of them wish to reconsider their request to be recused.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go first and I'll look for you for some guidance. You may recall that at the meeting, I see the meeting I started with the preamble, which is what Mr. Zender may have used to further this question, with a preamble saying that I did not feel that I was conflicted, but that one of the people who had written a letter in opposition had specifically asked whether any of the members of the board were customers of Nauset East. I have a very small motorboat, which Nauset East maintains. I drop it off there in the fall and I pick it up in the spring, and they do things in the winter and I pay them. That's my only involvement. At the time, we had 6 members. So I thought because it had been raised, it would just be easier, I guess, to avoid the whole issue. And so I suggested that I would be happy to recuse myself. Having said that, at that same meeting, we also had before us an application by Agway, at which I am also a customer, as is, I think, every member of the board. I didn't feel that application required me to recuse myself. And I don't think my relationship with Nauset East, it's a bigger dollar sum. I spend more at Nauset East, but it's a one-time transaction, basically. I deal with the young lady who manages the yard. I don't know the owners. I don't know any of the people really involved in management of the company. My involvement is very tangential. But having recused myself for the first hearing, I did stay for the whole hearing. But I don't want to get in the middle of a legal wrangle with her. I don't know what the governing, Mr. Taub, I think, expressed a contrary opinion. He thought that I was precluded because it's a bigger dollar sum than I spend at Agway, I guess. I don't know what the difference is. I don't have any more relationship with Agway than I do with Nauset Marine. So there it is. But Mr. Chairman, I don't want to be in the middle of some legal battle where I become the controversy and the merits become secondary.
I wasn't thinking that the chair ought to be the arbiter of the gravity of the inappropriateness or propriety, and I think that each member ought to be.
Well, and let me say this: had there only been 5 members, I wouldn't have recused myself last time. But the fact that he didn't need me, and that the objector to the someone commenting to the negative about the proposal had asked the question, is anybody a customer? And so I declared that I was a customer. I saw I wasn't needed. So I thought it would just be easier for everyone if I just recuse myself, because you would have had to pick someone to step aside, and I offered to step aside, basically.
Very well. Then I interpret that as a continuation of the request to be excused.
Well, no, it wasn't meant that way. It was meant to, engender some discussion whether, well, it wasn't meant that way. I'm happy to sit if you think that's not a controversy. Mr. Taub has his hand raised. He distinguished my being a customer of Nauset East and my being a customer of Agway last time, and maybe he has some insight to share with us that could guide us.
I'm thinking that even if there's a slight connection, which might lead a reasonable person to conclude that you would be, a member would be less than impartial, that's enough to honor the request to be recused.
Okay,
Mr.
I like
Cobb.
that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Taub, do you want to weigh in on this?
I don't recall objecting to Mr. Mulligan's participation. And not that I have any authority in this regard, but I continue to not object to his participation. In some ways, and this is unfamiliar territory for me, I wonder to what extent Mr. Zender has any say in this. If Mr. Zender objected, well, then clearly we wouldn't go forward. But if Mr. Zender indicated no objection, perhaps that would be helpful. But I have no objection to Mr. Mulligan serving on this panel.
Very well.
Chairman,
Mr. Zender, you might end up defending a decision if it goes your way.
Well, before you get speaking, Mr. Zender, I am concerned, Mr. Chairman, that you think that your remarks seem to advise that I continue my recusal.
I think that your recusal would provide a pristine and an impartial board without any possibility of attack or bias.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
and again, I appreciate Mr. Mulligan's sensitivity to the question as well as the chairs. I don't believe that the standard for recusal is whether or not you're a customer of a business that's before the board. It's whether you have whether either you or a family member have a financial interest in the outcome of the proceeding. So I think that Mr. Mulligan's participation in the forum is lawful. I think it's appropriate, and I think it would survive any test by either the Office of Professional Responsibility or a court. As a practical matter, let's say Mr. Mulligan is a no vote on this, I'm really no further in the hole than if he weren't to sit. So I would love to, and again, it's not my choice, it's Mr. Mulligan's choice. I would love to have him on the board. I don't see the conflict. I just don't see it. And again, I don't see any difference between this applicant and any other business in the town of Orleans. I think it's completely common that members of this board are going to participate in the economy of the town. It's whether or not they have a direct interest in the outcome of the proceeding, or whether, and this is for Mr. Mulligan to determine whether his participation and involvement with Nauset Marine means that he can't be unbiased in the proceeding. I think if he cannot be unbiased and doesn't believe he could be unbiased, then I think he certainly should not participate in the proceeding. But I think that's really the only test.
I believe that when the question was raised before, and Mr. Mulligan stated that he could remain unbiased. Is that continued to be the case, Mr. Mulligan?
I think my involvement with Nauset Marine is very tangential. I don't think I think in their range of customers, my boat is very small, doesn't require much attention. I bring it in the fall, I take it out in the spring. I think I could rule without. I have no vested interest in the marina or its continuing
Very well.
operation.
Very well, then I rule under the facts that are revealed by Mr. Mulligan that being a customer of an applicant, it is in and of itself an insufficient reason to excuse a board member from hearing an application. Therefore, Mr. Mulligan may remain at the hearing and participate in it.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask before we do that, if other members of the board are uncomfortable with that, with me proceeding along, I would like to hear that. I think we should know that. That would be helpful.
Very well. Then
I'm trying to remove the controversy, make it as less of a controversy as we possibly can. And
Very
if other
well.
members of the board think contrarily, I wish they'd say so.
Very well, then what I'm really asking is, does any member of the board object to my ruling that a board member who is a customer of an applicant is not excused solely by reason of being a customer? There's no objection. Therefore, we may proceed. Mr. Cole, you are insisting on your recusal.
Correct, and I'll say goodnight. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Very well, then we will proceed with case number 2160. The members of the board who are constituting a quorum are as follows: myself, Mr. Mulligan, Mr. Waugh, Ms. Van Giesen, and Mr. Todd. Mr. Zender, you may proceed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everybody. And joining me on the line is are the members of our team, including Todd Walker from Nauset Marine. Teresa Sprague is here, who is our plant specialist, who's done the landscaping plan that you've seen. Dave McNevich from Coastal Engineering has prepared the site plan. Roger Brooks is our builder, and Kurt Raber is the architect. And the members might remember that at the last hearing, we didn't get too far into this application for the simple reason that we had been in front of the Architectural Review Committee immediately prior to the Board of Appeals hearing and sort of ran into a brick wall with ARC. But we did want to have an initial presentation with your board, this board, to at least outline the project and present the project and to present the use question, which was, I think, preliminarily framed by the chair earlier tonight, but I'd like to clarify a little bit. It's my position that under the Orleans zoning bylaw, where a marina is a permitted use as of right in the rural business district, that this is in fact a marina, which is defined in the zoning code as a boat basin and or boatyard, which provides facilities for mooring boats, storage and servicing of all types of recreational craft, including supplies and repairs. So although there is a history of the use of these lots for storage of boats, that history is not really necessary for the approval by this board of the construction of a boat repair facility of more than 2,500 square feet on this lot. I think the way that the question has been presented by the building inspector is that the marina use is a viable interpretation of the zoning bylaw, but that it's possible that the board will determine that it is in fact not a marina use, but that it's boat storage and repair, which is a separate classification, which is not permitted in the RB district. So I think the board is going to have to, at some point in this hearing, come to a determination as to what the use classification is. I would hope the board would consider it to be a marina, which I believe it to be. Also, with regard to the project itself, after the Architectural Review Committee hearing and after this board's initial hearing, Mr. Walker, Mr. Deschamps have gone back and engaged a new architect who has prepared in connection with Mr. Brooks, the builder, a new set of plans for the building, which the board has in front of it, which significantly changes the exterior appearance of the building, including wooden siding, architectural detailing, and a farmer's porch, window schedules, pine siding. and we've presented to the board detailed architectural plans for the change of the building. Additionally, Teresa Sprague has gone back and provided significant additional screening along Barley Neck Road and surrounding the perimeter of the property that's visible to the public to further screen the property from view. And the board has both a screening plan and a landscaping plan, in addition to lighting plans showing that the lighting will not have any light throw, anywhere near the perimeter of the property. I can report to the board that in addition to the conservation approval, which was obtained earlier, and the formal site plan approval, which was obtained earlier, architectural review reviewed this matter on the 14th, and they were, I'd like to say they were very happy with the presentation, and they unanimously voted to approve both the site plan and the building elevations and plans as presented in the forms which this board has in front of it tonight. So with that being said, I'd like to rest my presentation and ask Teresa to give the board just a very brief overview of the screening that's been designed for the property, and then await the board members' questions and comments so that we can respond to those. And thank you.
Good evening. Thanks, Ben. This is Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. The plan that you're seeing dated September 8th, 2021 screening plan, if we could focus on that, because it incorporates the elements of what was previously approved by the Orleans Conservation Commission to the south of the proposed building, as well as the addition of the screening plan to the north. So I think that's probably the best plan to look at overall. So if I'm going to just kind of work our way from the south through the east and then to the west of the property. So, and I'm going to kind of couch this in terms of the conservation buffer zones, which I know you're familiar with. So if you're looking at the screening plan, you'll see that there's on the southern portion of the property, there's a red line that denotes the 50-foot buffer zone to the resource area. And we're showing that in a hatched pattern, and that's existing vegetation that's going to remain in place. That's a significant amount of canopy species, as well as shrubs and vines that provide a significant visual buffer from high tide lane, from the water, and from any structures to the south and the east of the property. That canopy is about 50 to 60 feet tall, so it does provide significant screening into the property from those areas. Just outside of that red line and in the green line and the blue line, the 50 and 100 foot buffer, 75 and 100 foot buffers to the coastal bank. That's an area where we anticipate there'll be disturbance for some regrading and the construction of the building. And we have designed a planting plan that will significantly buffer and restore all of the vegetation that's disturbed within that area. As you move towards the east portion of the property, we have a significant number of trees, and then moving towards the west, that area will be entirely planted with shrubs. In addition to that, along the eastern property line, we have an area of existing Leland cypress trees that are providing screening into the boat storage area from the properties to the south and the east. And we'll continue that screening with those evergreen trees along the eastern property line as you head from north to south. As we move to the northern portion of the property along Barley Neck Road, we have a number of deciduous canopy trees that are located in that area. Our goal here was to provide some evergreen screening in between. So on to the east of the entrance into the area, we've got a line of Emerald Sentinel Eastern Red Cedar trees. These are native Eastern Red Cedars, but they're a cultivar that remains at a slightly lower elevation. They max out at about 20 feet tall and are slightly narrower than the straight species, so that they won't grow into the street area and won't take up a significant portion of the boat storage area. As we jump to the west of that entrance into the parking area and the storage area, we again have a mix of those Emerald Sentinel Eastern Red Cedars. We have the existing deciduous canopy trees. And then in areas where we'll have more shade from those canopy trees, we're proposing some American hollies that will again provide evergreen screening, but will tolerate some shade underneath the canopy trees. And then as we head further to the west along High Tide Lane, we are proposing some straight eastern red cedars. These are trees that get significantly taller and wider, so eventually we'll max out at about 40 to 50 feet tall with a 30-foot spread. So they'll really provide screening into the parking lot and storage area and towards the building from Barley Neck Road and then into High Tide Lane. And then again, as we head south towards down High Tide Lane, back towards the water, we're proposing planting of some holly trees and those cedar trees to provide, again, evergreen screening into the lot. So I'm happy to answer any questions. The goal here was to provide abundant evergreen screening along with the existing deciduous canopy trees from Barley Neck Road, and to really make the views from the south and east completely blocked, so that the entire what I'm calling rear or water side of the building will be completely obscured from views from the south and to the east.
Are there any questions from any members of the board concerning the landscaping as summarized? Mr. Mulligan. Mr. Mulligan, did you want to comment? You are muted, right? You are muted now.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, pardon me. Yeah, so Ms. Sprague, you've got nice screening between Meeting House Pond and the building. But I think some of the concern might be from the visual effect from Barley Neck Road. Now you're putting some of those midget, I'd call them midget cypress trees along the road there. Is that, you've got 4 trees indicated and then 5, I guess, existing Leland cypress trees, right?
So the existing Leland cypress trees are, they run from the southern portion on the easternmost part of the property. There's an existing row of Leland cypress that run all along that southern property line, and then down south towards High Tide Lane, towards the water. We're adding additional Leland cypress trees in that area in order to provide that screening, particularly from any of the abutting properties to the south and to the east.
Do you know the elevation from, this building is built into the hillside there, I presume, that's where it's going?
It does, the property does slope down towards the water. The topography that we're showing on the plan, and I think the engineer might be able to answer that in a little bit more depth for you. The Leland cypress trees, as you know, grow quite large. They have the ability to grow up to 70 feet tall. And the existing Leland cypress trees are full, large, they're mature, and they also grow very rapidly. So the Leland cypress that we're proposing there along that eastern property line, in the area that we've got highlighted in green, we'll put in, and we expect will grow quite rapidly and kind of finish off any screening in that area, and will grow right into that existing Leland cypress. I'm going to call it a canopy hedge for lack of a better term, but it's basically creating a line of canopy trees all along that property line to really buffer the building from the east and from the south.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Zender.
just to answer Mr. Mulligan's question a little more thoroughly, along Barley Neck Road,
Yeah.
you know, to the east side of the driveway, and the new driveway is almost exactly across from the Barley Neck Inn service driveway.
Yeah.
To the left of that, they're proposing 14 new cedars.
Correct. Yes, I'm sorry.
So
So
that's a
Yeah.
solid wall of screening on the left side of that driveway. And then on the right side of that driveway, what Teresa's proposing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 new cedars of the larger variety. So she's essentially created a wall of cedars on both sides of that driveway. So if somebody were either walking or driving down Barley Neck Road, they're going to be looking at a wall of screening. The only real visual, the ability to look at that building would be if you were to go right to the front of the driveway and look down into the driveway.
Good. And I guess this is the engineering question. How much, if you were to draw a straight line, a level line from Barley Neck Road, how much of the building would be above that line? We're building into the hill, so some of it's going to be into the hill, and it's going to extend above that hill, I presume, not the full height of the building.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the building's not a walkout in the front on the Barley Neck Road side. It's going to be, the building is level with the lot on the Barley Neck Road side. The hill drops back from there. So the building is going to be at its full height at its front.
I thought it was below the grade. You were building into the grade. You're not. You're building above the grade.
No, the grade
the
drops
hillside.
back in a way. It doesn't. It's not being built into the hill on the front side.
I'm sorry. My mistake. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Is there any other questions by anyone present concerning landscaping? Mr. Zender, has the landscaping changed since the application was first filed?
It has, Mr. Chairman.
I hear no objection. Excuse me, there is a comment. Mr. and Mrs. Megason have indicated some comments. None of which appear to object to the landscaping. All right, then we'll continue further. Let's talk about the change in use.
Are you looking for comments from me, Mr. Chairman?
I am.
Okay, well, again, to restate what I believe is that the marina use is a permitted use of right in the zoning bylaw, meaning the voters of the town of Orleans have established that in the rural business district that they believe that a marina use is a use that should be utilized and is permissible as a right in the district. In reading the definition of a marina, which is a facility which moors and stores and repairs recreational boats, I believe that this use that's proposed here is a marina use, as distinguished from a straight boat storage and repair facility, which wouldn't be connected to the other parts of a marina use. So I think that the only relief that is required here is the general relief in the use tables that when you construct more than 2,500 square feet of floor area, that you're required to have a special permit under note 4 of the use tables. So the bylaw does provide some level of ambiguity because it has a definition for a marina and it has a definition for boat storage and repair. And so I think that the code anticipates that if it weren't a marina, if this were a business engaged in the isolated activities of repairing boats or storing boats, that it wouldn't be a permitted use in this district, but that because it is part and parcel of Nauset Marine East, which provides all these services, that it is in fact a permitted use of right. So that's what I believe, Mr. Chairman, but obviously it's for this board to examine and make a determination as to the interpretation of the zoning code.
Very well. Well, the notice of variance, which was recorded in with the Registry of Deeds, allowed, it's dated, the notice of the variance is dated April 16th, 1970, allows the East Orleans Boatyard Inc., which I'll assume that's the predecessor of Nauset Marine, to construct a boat ramp, bulkhead, timber pier, place fixed floats mooring piles, and dredge and place fill on Meeting House Pond. I think a fair reading of that would allow the maintenance of a marina, which is what's been done pretty much since then, as far as what can be established by the evidence. However, my feeling is that boat repair is a different use than a marina, whether or not the premises have been used for some kind of boat repair since 1970, notwithstanding. I think that's the importance of this application. Whether boats may be repaired on site or within the new structure. Right?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure I understand your comments. Are you suggesting that boat repair on this property would require some relief from this board?
Yes.
Okay, I have two comments, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I don't believe that the rural business district existed in 1970. I believe that these use classifications are subsequent to the granting of that variance in 1970. So I think that the zoning code has been amended to create both this district and this permitted use. So I don't think the existence of a variance in 1970 does dictate in any way, shape, or form. And secondly, the marina definition specifically says it's a boat basin and/or boatyard which provides facilities for mooring boats, storage, and servicing of all types of recreational craft, including supplies and repairs. So I don't believe that boat repair is somehow excluded from the marina definition.
I don't see that within the four corners of the variance which was given in 1970.
The variance, Mr. Chairman, I believe the variance was given in 1970 because the marina definition and the rural business district weren't in effect at that time. Meaning if you wanted to engage in that activity back in 1970, you required a variance from the Board of Appeals. But the creation of the marina definition and the rural business use table, which permits marina uses, I believe, and again, I wasn't involved in this 1970, I think it was a recognition by the voters that this particular area contained a marina use, which was then made a permitted use as of right. So I think that the amendment of the zoning code to create the rural business district and to create this marina definition obviated the requirement for a variance after that point. So now this is a use that's permitted as a right. Back then it would have required a variance. I don't believe the granting of the variance in 1970 is informative in this regard.
So then the applicant says that the only issue in front of us is whether the building, or whatever use it's put after construction, since it exceeds 2,500 square feet. That's the only question.
That's my position, Mr. Chairman. But we have applied for a special permit in the alternative, just to cover our bases.
I need you to provide me with some other board with some evidence as to how the boat repairs have been performed, say, since the term marina was defined by the zoning ordinance.
Well, as we presented in the last hearing, Nauset Marine has, and I can have Todd can explain to you exactly when they commence repairs. I think it's clear, at least from the terms of the variance granted by the Board of Appeals, that there have been repairs there at least since 1970 when the marina was there. I'll ask Todd to speak to that, but again, unless this board is going to find and rule that boat repairs in this district are not permitted of right in connection with the marina, I don't think we get to the question of the special permit or any pre-existing use. And again, I direct the board to the definition in the code of marina.
Excuse me, I'm looking for 164.13.
And I direct the board to 164.4, which is the definitional section.
That's very well, members of the board. 164, the definitional section of the zoning bylaw provides the following after the word marina. A boat basin and or boatyard which provides facilities for mooring boats, storage and servicing of all types of recreational craft, including supplies and repairs. So from that, we may conclude that there is no necessity, there's no, the application need not contain a request for a change of use if for the sole purpose of boat repairs being one of the activities on the site. Now, that leaves us with a very simple question. What is the public interest and whether a special permit can be granted under the two provisions under the, since it is an RB district under 164.44 and 164.38 of the zoning bylaw. Let me ask this. Who stands here at this meeting in opposition to this application? Sir, I don't know the name of the, there's a man and a woman. I can't identify you, sir. Can you unmute yourself and tell me who you are?
Me?
You're identified on the Zoom screen as 372648. We need you to unmute yourself and speak. Good.
Can you hear me?
I think we can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So I did speak before this board at the last meeting in opposition to this. I have a question at this point. The lots
you
that are
Mr.
along
First?
Barley Neck Road. Yes, I am.
Very well. Yes, we did hear from you.
I
Eloquently
am
last
Robert
time.
First. Well, perhaps I won't be as eloquent now because I want to ask a question.
Yes, would you?
And the question is this. May I ask the question,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So the question is this. The lots along Barley Neck Road were joined at an ANR proceeding on May 11th before the Orleans Planning Board. If those lots were not joined by as a result of that hearing and ruling, would all the lots in question still be considered a marina use?
Yes. Yes, they're
They
under
would be.
they're under common ownership, and I'm
E-
quite
Even
satisfied.
if okay, because what the board ruled at that time was that the combination of the lots would be for the storage of boats in the off-season. That was the ruling of the planning board at that time. According to the minutes of the planning board. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Zender,
the planning board endorsed an approval not required plan for the property as a ministerial function, because it was a perimeter plan combining existing lots of record. So the planning board had no authority to make any determinations about the use of the property, and nothing about their endorsement of the plan would in any way affect any zoning classification or use of the property. So I'm sure Mr. First may be right in terms of what the planning board stated, but it doesn't really matter what they stated. Their endorsement of the plan had no legal effect on the use of the property itself.
what I think the board really needed to know that is, Mr. First, since the time that you made your comments to us months ago, whether you still object to this application or any part of it.
A very fair question, Mr. Chairman. I think they've done considerable effort, gone through considerable effort to create a more pleasing structure. But nonetheless, the use of that structure, the activity within the building and outside of the building is still problematic for all of the abutters. And there is a reason to regard this as an expansion of the non-conforming use. So I don't think the marina use alongside the river extends up to Bonnie Neck Road. That was never the intention of the use up to this time, and it's now being promoted as a use that's required. I don't regard it as a continuation of a pre-existing non-conforming use. I regard it as an expansion, and I don't think the board should be entertaining that, especially in a community that has no industrial uses other than this proposed use.
Very well. Ms. Magnuson, did you want to make some remarks?
Can't hear her.
Can you join with audio, Ms. Magnuson?
I think your microphone is still broken. It didn't work the last meeting either. Perhaps you could, you joined on your phone last time, you called in, you could do that again.
Well, we could continue. Are there any other people wishing to speak in, say, opposition to the application? Mr. Hurley?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I also have a question. What if Nauset Marine were to buy a parcel across the street, across Main Street, say Katie's, and then decide that they want to use that for boat storage? Would that be permitted based on, what Mr. Zander has said?
No, not based on what Mr. Zender said. No, there wouldn't be a contiguous parcel or connected parcel. So this was an assemblage of six or seven parcels. So it's considered as a unit for the purposes of this hearing.
Well, the boat storage parcel is across the street from the marina parcel, if you will, separated by a public roadway.
That's High Tide Lake.
Yes.
What say you, Mr. Zender?
First of all, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe the code requires that the parcels be contiguous. They require that the property be used as part and parcel of a marina. So I think if, to go to Mr. Hurley's hypothetical, if Nauset Marine were to acquire another parcel in the RB district that was sufficiently removed from the marina, that this board made the determination that it was no longer part of a marina use, but was in fact a separate boat storage use, then I believe it wouldn't be permitted. But in this particular case where there is direct forklift access between the two properties, where the property is only separated by the width of that road, which Nauset Marine owns portions of, and where they historically have been using direct forklift access between the properties, I think that it's completely appropriate for this board to find that this is part and parcel of a marina use.
Well, the $64 question is whether the variance which was granted for the property recorded in book 965, pages 529 to 530, included the land north of High Tide Lane. If it did, then that answers Mr. Hurley's question. The variance reached there.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the variance is a red herring. You know, the zoning bylaw now permits this as a right in this district. I don't believe that whether the variance included or any particular use or area is dispositive as to what's permitted now under the zoning bylaw. This yard activity, I mean, again, and the member's own experience may be helpful. But this yard now, as it's used for storage, is a yard in which boats are brought down to Nauset Marine East, they're repaired, they're brought back up to the storage yard. Same thing will happen going forward. The only difference is that the repairs will be occurring up in this building. So, it would defy common sense to say that the activity that occurs now and the proposed activity isn't part and parcel of Nauset Marine's marine activity. That's why they bought this land that was immediately adjacent to their marina facility, to make it part, so they could use it in connection with the marina. And that's how they've been using it, and that's how they will use it. It's still a marina. It's just now the boat repairs are going to happen in another part of the property, and they're going to happen inside of a building, rather than out in the open on the other part of the property. So it will still be used for storage of boats. There will still be movement of boats back and forth between the two parts of the property. And I'd like to add, just by way of general argument, that Nauset Marine has been hauling boats through the streets of Orleans and down to this marina and through all over Orleans and other environments since 1961 without a problem. They haul boats in and out of their facility on Route 6A, which, as you know, is a significant traffic area. This intersection at Main Street and Barley Neck Road and High Tide Lane is a somewhat difficult intersection. And Nauset Marine has been hauling some fairly significantly sized boats in and out of there for decades without any problems that any of us can recall. So I think to go to the general merits of the application for special permit, I can't see that constructing an indoor repair facility here with the same hauling of boats in and out and around is in any way substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing use of the property.
Well, except that, it's a brand new building, didn't exist before, and it exceeds 2,500 square feet. That's what it's all about.
Of course.
Did Miss Megason join us by telephone?
She has not.
Oh, but I see her. I see her on amongst the participants. And I can't tell what she's saying.
Is there someone who could give her the number to call in?
Sure, I can read it out. Would that help? Hang
I
on,
think it
I'll
would.
get
I
it.
think she's indicating it would.
So the number is 646-558-8656. And the webinar ID, why don't you give me a thumbs up when you need the ID? And I'll read it to you. If you need the ID, it's 8855 3652 4062. Okay, you need it again? The ID is 8855. No, you need the phone number. Okay. You need the phone number 646-558-8656. It's not working. That is the phone number. Can you try joining the Zoom meeting from your phone? Like so you have a smartphone. So go to the town website, click on the Zoom link, and then you can come in virtually on your phone, bypass the audio part, bypass the dialing.
In the meanwhile, I think we will continue with the hearing. Is there anyone else wishing to comment in opposition to the application? Mr. Hurley, can we hear from you again, please?
Yes, thank you. I just want to voice my opinion that this is the boatyard, the boat storage yard is a different use case than the marina, which sits south of High Tide Lane. High Tide Lane is a public roadway. You can see it on the map. Nauset Marine doesn't own that public roadway. I think if you are going to consider the boatyard to be part of the marina, then we should reconsider the entire status of the marina, because it is, far bigger than the voters ever thought it would be based on that definition. I don't think it's an appropriate place for a repair facility. It's a big industrial use. It's like a Midas repair shop. And I would urge you to decline the variance or certificate.
Very well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Zenda.
just to clarify 1 point, 2 points. One is High Tide Lane is not a public road. It's a private road. It's owned by Nauset Marine between the two properties. And it's not an industrial use. It's classified as a marina use. An industrial use is a different use classified under the zoning bylaw. But that road is not a public road.
I don't know if it makes any difference. The point here is that the RB district extends or use as a marina, whether or not the Nauset Marine's ownership is interrupted by High Tide Lane as a private right of way, still covers the several lots on Farley Neck Road and High Tide Lane as a marina. Therefore, we have determined that boat repair extends as a permissible use in to those lots. The question is whether the new building, it being in excess of 2,500 square feet, is appropriate and should be allowed to be permitted. And
So now that you're in on your phone, you need to leave from the computer or else you're gonna get that feedback.
Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, may I ask a question or make a suggestion?
yes, please.
That the opponents of this are sort of relying on, they're getting into legal quagmires about the road and the original. I would prefer to hear if they have concerns, what their concerns are. Are they visual? Are they noise? Are they, if it's in other words, I'd hate to see them end this conversation where we differ on the use and the location of the use and the road. But what is the objection in terms of, is it noise, traffic, whatever, you know, I hate to have the hearing end and they don't get a feeling of letting us know what the problem is and that perhaps the applicant could respond.
No,
to
and
other issues.
yes, and Mr. Mulligan, that's exactly what I was trying to hunt down by asking the question. For example, whether there were any comments concerning landscaping, and I didn't hear a whole lot for that particular function. Then I'm trying to smoke out, so for the benefit of all of us colleagues on the zoning board, as to what the objections are, and finally, whether there are any conditions which would be acceptable to the granting of a special permit, which would which would mitigate or alleviate the objections as they presently, as what was left over from them. Mr. First has spoken a couple of times to us and submitted a writing. Mr. Hurley says that he objects to it, period. That doesn't mean that he may not object subject to conditions, but that's what we're trying to work towards. And I think that's your suggestion, and I adopt it completely. Now, Ms. Megison, if you're with us, that would be great, because you submitted a 2-page comments.
You need to leave on the computer, so X out of Zoom altogether on your computer. Just stay on your phone.
So far, we've identified Ms. Megison, I believe, Mr. Hurley and Mr. First as objecting in whole or in part to the application. Is there anyone else wishing to be identified as objecting to the application in one form or another?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh, I so apologize. I'm very frustrated with all of this. I apologize. Did you get my letter that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
okay.
did. It's a two-page series of comments. I didn't see
Yeah.
what you had, and I've expressed to the zoning board that I didn't see where you really had any objection as to the landscaping. I see that.
No, out of the landscaping, certainly, but more of everything from the sound to the noise to the lights. And when they say that the lights only when they don't open the building, that when you do industrial work in a garage, doors will open, you'll hear sound at all hours of the day and night, and we are abutting, and we hear a lot of noise and sound from the present maintenance shop. So I'd be curious to see if the work is going to continue in both locations or just in the new location, because it has affected the value of our property. And our house was reassessed because of Nauset Marine, because of the negative detriment to our property values. So, I am very concerned about this.
The principal question here is whether or not Nauset Marine should be allowed to build a building in excess of 2,500 square feet, inside of which there may be some boat repair work being done. I'm wondering whether you have any good evidence or that we could consider concerning the vibration that you're expressing would occur because of traffic.
Going up and down the High Lane Road, our house has been caused vibration to our house because of the carrying of the boats up and down that hill. And the windows vibrate, the house vibrates, yeah, from the weight of the boats going up and down the hill.
Do you object completely to the establishment of a building as described in the application, which is of some significant dimension and height? Mr. Sender, what are the proposed hours of use?
The 7 a.m. in the morning. The business closes at 5 p.m., winter and summer, so there will be no activity in the building after 5 p.m. But it's possible that somebody hauling a boat may drop a boat in shortly after that. I would suggest 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. would be appropriate operating hours.
So you may not be doing repairs after 5, but there may be some jockeying and movement of the boat inventory until dark.
As well as, in a significant storm event, there would be boats moving in and out at all hours. For example, a hurricane were coming in, something like that. But 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Operations employees go home as they always have at 5 p.m.
So if we restricted the operations at the site to 7 to 7, if you have no objection to that?
I would not.
Mr. First, how does that condition sound to you?
Well, since I like to get up around 8:30, it sounds like it's a little early. So if we could, and a lot of businesses don't open that early. If we could have them open at 8 o'clock, that would be a better time for the neighborhood. I think, and the 7 o'clock is fine at night. From my perspective.
Are they going to continue in the other location?
As far as I could see, Ms. Megison, that's really not in front of the board. I'm mainly concerned with the 5 lots right on Farley Neck Road.
Okay.
That was, you're the one that, in your writing, raised that suggestion that there be a restriction as to the operations. I wonder whether you have any other substantial objection if we grant say a special permit restricting operations from say 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
all I can tell you by way of my understanding of Nauset Marina, these are a group of old Yankees. Their employees come in, they start work early, they finish early. Most businesses are going till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. They come in at 7, they work till 5. So I think that telling them that they can't open their shop at 8 o'clock is going to significantly change the way that they operate relative to their other locations. And again, they work around the tides as well. If it's an early tide, the boats come out early. So I think 7 a.m. is a traditional time for early tradesmen to start working on properties and doing all the work that they do. So that hour is an hour they can't operate.
point
Mr.
taken,
Chairman,
point taken.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. First.
yeah, it may be a traditional time when the boat repair people work, but it is not a traditional location where the boat people have been working. And it is going to create noise, and that noise is going to further disrupt our community, as well as the traffic in and out of the lots. I had suggested in a conversation that perhaps with one of the owners, that perhaps they would consider putting a locked gate in front of the entrance of boats, so people cannot go in all hours of the day and night, and therefore the lot would be restricted to use, even as they're representing they would like it to be. But there will be nothing there under the present plan to prevent people from bringing their boats in at any hour of the day or night. Nothing. And that is a concern. That's going to raise noise issues. It's going to raise, dust all the time, clanking of trailers. It is going to turn what is basically a peaceful area of Orleans into a noisy area. So if you are to go ahead with this, I would really ask that you consider seriously letting them start at 8 o'clock in the morning. If that results in them having to change a bit the way in which they do business, it's also causing us to have to change the way in which we enjoy our property. So it sounds to me like it's a reasonable trade-off.
You're expecting then, Mr. First, that the traffic would be, the traffic you were just describing would be increased because of the establishment of the new building.
And the new entranceway.
Oh, I see.
The
what
new
you-
entranceway, which is across from the Barley.
the
And
customers
not
aren't
only
going-
that, the noise from the operation, it's,
Where's your list?
pardon?
My letter.
Where is it? I didn't hear you.
Ms. Megison, you have something to say?
I'm basically agree with Mr. First as far as the noise and the sound, because we are above the existing maintenance shop, and I can tell you the lights are on well past 5 o'clock at night, and the noise. So I would like something, something in writing as far as that goes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Zender.
look, there are other operations down at that portion of the marina that extend past 5 o'clock. People come and go out of their boats. well past 5 o'clock in the summertime. They're coming in, the launch service is operating. Rack storage is operating, but the repair crew goes home at 5. What I could suggest is that the town impose a condition that there not be any boat drop-offs or pickups until 8 o'clock in the morning. And that would limit the traffic in and out of the property, but the crew can still come in and have their normal operating hours of 7 o'clock to 5 p.m.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. First,
I think that's a helpful suggestion from Mr. Zender, but can we also ask that the doors to the building not be opened until, that work be conducted behind closed doors until 8 o'clock in the morning?
is there any further comment on the application? Very well.
Chairman?
Hearing none, then I will close the hearing for the taking of evidence and ask,
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Hurley is trying to speak again.
yes, Mr. Hurley, do you want to have further remarks?
Yes, just in response to Mr. Mulligan's comments, to net it out, my objection is the extra driveway cut across from Barley Neck Inn. It's a very busy area. People park there, people run and bike. It's a pedestrian area. And I'm opposed to that. I think it's gonna just complicate things even worse. And my other objection is just the scale of the facility itself. I think it's too big for that area. Even though they've done some efforts to make it more amenable, I think it's just too large. So just to net it out, that's where I stand.
Mr. Zender, well, why do you need that extra that curb cut across from the Valley Neck Inn?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, now we can.
It's to get boats in and out and have the circulation necessary to get them to the front doors of that property. That they have, I believe it's over 400 feet of frontage on Barley Neck Road, which is a public road.
You do have
And I
that.
believe that curb cut has been, and I could be wrong, but I know it's been reviewed by site plan review. And I can't tell you whether it's been approved by the highway department yet, but it's, they have a significant amount of property with frontage on a public road, and it provides for access. And frankly, it's safer to bring those boats in further down Barley Neck Road than to have them continue to make that transition out onto Barley Neck Road, right where Barley Neck Road and Main Street and High Tide Lane come together.
That looked like from 10,000 feet up, it looked like a pretty good access there at the corner of High Tide Lane and Barley Neck Road. But
I live down towards Poaching, Mr. Marnick. I can tell you that the people coming out of that area, bringing their boats, those boat haulers, bring those boats, have a very difficult transition. They're coming to come out of High Tide Lane right when people are swinging off of Main Street onto Barley Neck Road, right to their left. So it's they've designed a driveway that meets all the site distance requirements. They have significant frontage on Barley Neck Road, which they've paid for. And I think they have a right to use it. And I don't think that it's going to create any negative impact on the neighborhood. As the board is aware, customers at Barley Neck, park along that roadway in and out all night long. So I don't think it's going to be any significant increase in the way that roadway is used.
very well. Then now I'm looking for some discussion and comments by the board before we entertain any motions.
Mr. Chairman, there was a comment made, and I don't think it was answered, about opening of doors. When work is done, are the doors open, and can they, if they're open, could they be closed until 8 or some later hour? I think that was a point that was made by one of the commentators.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Look, the intention is to keep those doors closed when they're not operating, to open the doors when they're operating so that fresh air and light comes in that they can work with. They'll open them up in the morning. I should add, look, this building is set back from Barley Neck Road 127 feet, as well as screened with those walls of cedars. They're set back 109 feet from High Tide Lane, where 25 feet is required. This building is set back a significant distance. So, and that work is happening inside the building. And look, they're not welding and building things in there. They're turning wrenches in there. They're fixing outboard motors. They're tuning engines. They're doing all this stuff. This is not a loud activity. So, when they go in, they need to open that door, they need to work, and then when they're done, they'll close that door. This is a use that's permitted in this district.
I, for one, think that the size of and magnificence of the new structure, which was at first blush, when I first saw the plans a couple of months ago, I thought that the building was excessive, but I'm no longer of that opinion. I think that the use for boat storage and repair is not necessarily repair on that particular lot or part of the lot is well established, but the fact of the matter is, I'm satisfied myself that the highest and best use of the property is for a marina, which it does include boat repair in addition to storage. That's a wedge that extends from the Barley Neck Inn down to the water, and it's well established, accepted by the town and its citizens and a whole lot of folks who spend time here with us as guests during the summer. So to that extent, I don't consider the use to be objectionable, and I would support the application. The question may be, under what circumstances should any conditions be attached to the use? We know from the evidence that the objections have been diminished to some extent since the time that the application was first filed. Nauset Marine, and we may conclude, was trying to be a good neighbor in accommodating the original objections, which were addressed to the sight lines and landscaping. That appears to be relatively a benign objection now, or a modest objection if it exists at all. Therefore, that leaves the question of the use itself, that is, whether the use being for boat repair, that would be the most possible objectionable use inside the building is in excess of 2,500 square feet. Well, I don't think that anything less than 2,500 square feet would ever be kind of a sensible development or project. So I'm leaning in favor of the application. Anyone else from the board wishing to weigh in a bit?
I can comment based
Well-
on what I've seen and what our concerns were at the first meeting. Were with respect to the size of the building, the coloration of the building, and how much it would be shielded, if you will, from the surrounding area. And I think the proposal as modified certainly has satisfied all those conditions in my mind. And the other thing I have to be concerned about is, can I really see any adverse impact of this use to the neighborhood and to the town itself. And I honestly can't say that I feel that way. I think, I mean, after all, folks, this is Cape Cod and there's a lot of boats out there. It's not a situation of, or are we faced with a situation where we love to see lobster pots in our neighbor's yard until we buy a piece of property with lobster pots there and then object to it. So I guess suffice to say that as it stands right now, I would be in support of this particular special permit.
Thank you, Mr. Waugh.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Taub,
I too, when I greeted this proposal the first time, was immensely skeptical and concerned, but my concerns have also been satisfied. And I think that the nature of the area as it's defined is the most compelling argument in favor of going forward with this. Though I think it may cause some personal distress to abutters, I just don't think, with all due respect, that rises to the level of being grounds to preclude voting favorably on this application. And I would also want to look very carefully at any conditions we attach, but at the current moment, I'm also inclined to a positive view.
the record reflect that this the district being partially business, then findings would also need to be made concerning section 16438, section B of which relates to activity type and mix, and the application suggests that the proposal will contribute to local employment opportunities by continuing to provide skilled jobs servicing and repairing boats, and will allow work to be done in an indoor location on a year-round basis. A good, solid finding to be made under the zoning bylaw. Any other comments by any members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'm also positively disposed. I was a bit surprised at the ardor with which or the force with Mr. Zender rejected the 8 o'clock starting time. I note that those hardworking, early rising Yankees are a dying breed. And they also may appreciate an extra hour of sleep when they got used to it. But it seems to me that 7 to 5, if my math is right, is 10 hours of operation. I don't know that even those hardworking Yankees put in 10 hours. And so I'd be supportive if someone, I don't want to, I'd be supportive if someone wanted to add a condition about the beginning hours of operation at the site starting 8 o'clock. I know that construction is able to start at 7, I think, in town is I think that's right. Mr. Evans, is that right? 7 o'clock, the carpenters can start banging nails. Is it, do we have a town ordinance about beginning of construction work around town?
No, we don't. There's a general noise ordinance. It's not a zoning bylaw, and it runs from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Well, yeah, and in other areas, other town, well, my previous town was a 7 a.m. start, which I always thought was early. I'm inclined to support the application, Mr. Chairman. I would be open to support if there was sentiment 8 o'clock starting time also.
I would like to comment to that particular comment. My understanding is there is a general bylaw relative to noise, and it does basically control things to start at 7. And certainly if we take a look at all of our neighborhoods, I'm not going to say who it is, but there are a lot of trucks that come around and pick up the trash starting at 7 o'clock. So I think postponing it to 8 o'clock, in my standpoint, my view is unreasonable, and I would prefer to hold to 7, not 8.
I concur, Mr. Wall.
I
Uh,
also
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to comment.
I was about to bring you to the forefront, Emily, and I'd like to
Thank
hear
you.
what we all want to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Center had mentioned that, it is in the business district and the use from 7 to 5 to me seems appropriate. I am in favor of the application. I don't feel it's appropriate to add any further conditions. Where I do empathize deeply with the concerns of the public in regards to noise, et cetera. Unfortunately, that is just a risk you take when you purchase a property near commercially zoned area. So that's all I have to say.
Yes, and I think the risk.
Wow.
I think that the risk to some extent is diminished by the neighbor and their track record of being a good neighbor. And I haven't heard any real strong complaint to that effect.
Additionally, I did also want to mention, if there was a repair facility in a different location, then you're also creating additional traffic of boats being towed throughout the town versus having that work done all in one space.
Point taken. The board will entertain a motion to grant the special permit for the establishment of expressed in the application and described in the documents filed with the application to build a building and operate a boat storage and repair facility in excess of 2,500 square feet on the condition that the hours of operation be restricted from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Do I hear that motion being made?
So moved.
Mr. Wall moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Van Giesen. Any discussion on the motion? Then,
I have one question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Top.
If a boat owner, as opposed to an employee of the marina, wanted to do something with their boat at any hour, they wanted to run the sander because that's the easiest for them. What is it in this that precludes that as well? I'm sorry, I'm not being very articulate, but
Oh, yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. The
can
question-
private owners access the facility at other hours to work on their boats? I'd like to make sure that they cannot.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sender.
they cannot. The only caveat I would add, which is, I think what I said to the board earlier, is there may be some movement of boats in and out of the site after 5 p.m., possibly up until 6, maybe 7, by haulers that are dropping things off after 5 p.m. But the shop closes down, the employees on site leave, and customers are not allowed to do work on the premises, and the boat ramp closes as well at 5
That
p.m.
satisfies me.
Very well. Then, Ms. Faber, can you poll the board? I don't know if Ms. Faber is still in attendance.
I saw that she had left, Mr. Chairman.
Very well, then I will poll the board. Mr. Marnick? Yes. Mr. Waugh,
Yes,
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes,
Ms. Van Giesen,
Yes.
Mr. Todd.
Yes,
The motion carries unanimously. I will write the opinion.
Thank you all.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Evers.
thank you, Mr. Evers.
That concludes, members of the board, that concludes, oh, excuse me, I think the minutes were of the last meeting were circulated.
move their approval, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. I'll second the motion. All those in favor
Aye,
and opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Mulligan, the second.
Second.
Thank you, Emily. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank
Aye.
you very much, colleagues, and good night.
Good night.